You're the smartest person in the world, but it doesn't matter because no one knows your name, no one knows your face, and the only thing waiting for you at the end of the case is death. You weren't built for glory. You weren't built for gratitude. You were built to solve the puzzle and vanish when it's over. That's the deal. But this puzzle is different. This one stares back, smiles, lies. This one has a name, Light Yagami. And somewhere between justice and obsession, between proof and suspicion, you don't just chase a killer, you befriend him. And that's why this story hurts. Because L didn't die trying to solve the case. He died knowing he was right and still couldn't stop it. You don't remember much before the orphanage, just that someone left you behind and someone else found you useful. Whammy's house wasn't a home. It was a factory, one designed to build brilliance, to shape forgotten children into weapons the world could use. You didn't cry, you didn't complain, you just solved puzzles faster than anyone else. While the other kids played outside, you sat cross-legged in a dark room, mapping the minds of murderers, cracking cases so fast the world started whispering your name, or at least the one you gave them. L, just a letter, because anything more would be too close, too real. You never needed friends. You needed distance. You needed the wall between you and the world to stay thick enough that no one could ever hurt you again. And so you became the ghost they hired when evil needed a funeral. But no one tells you what happens when evil stares back and recognizes the loneliness in your eyes. You knew who he was the moment he spoke, too calm, too perfect, too eager to hide something. Light Yagami wasn't just a suspect. He was the answer, but you couldn't prove it, not yet, so you got close. You walked beside him, ate with him, played tennis, traded theories, even handcuffed yourself to him, because the only way to catch a god was to be his shadow. And in the silence between clues, you saw it. He was just like you, brilliant, isolated, controlled. Two boys raised by expectation, addicted to being right, terrified of being wrong. You watched him smile, knowing it was a mask. You listened to him lie, knowing he thought he was smarter. And the worst part? You liked him. Not as a tool, not as a suspect, as a person. You laughed together. You argued like equals. For a moment it felt like friendship, but friendship needs trust. And all you had were calculations, because deep down, you knew something Light didn't. One of you was going to kill the other. And when it happened, it wouldn't feel like justice. It would feel like loss. You never slept much. Your body slouched, your eyes stayed sunken, and the sugar was just fuel for a brain that never stopped running. Every moment was a calculation, every conversation a test. Even your own team trusted only when they had no other choice. You watched them lose faith as the days dragged on. You watched their loyalty wobble every time Light smiled. They couldn't see what you saw, because they wanted to believe he was innocent. But you didn't have that luxury. You traced every clue. You studied surveillance tapes frame by frame. You followed patterns no one else could see, and yet the answers stayed just out of reach. Every time you got close, the evidence vanished, the story shifted, the mask reset. It wasn't just exhausting, it was humiliating. You were the world's greatest detective, and somehow you were losing. Not because you were wrong, but because the truth was buried beneath something you couldn't control. A notebook, a god, a lie too perfect to shatter. And so you kept moving, because stillness meant doubt, and doubt for you was deadly. You knew it was coming, not how, not when, but somewhere deep in that brilliant, exhausted mind, you knew the case was almost closed. You had seen the notebook, you had seen the Shinigami, and you had started to believe that maybe, just maybe, the finish line was in sight. But then Watari died, the screens went black, the safety net vanished, and before you could react, your heart stopped. Just like the others, you fell into Light's arms, not because he saved you, because he caught you long enough to gloat, and in those final seconds, you saw the smile, the proof you had chased across hundreds of corpses, dozens of sleepless nights, and the hollow space between friendship and suspicion. You were right. You were always right. And it didn't matter, because you died without justice, without applause, and without even your name. L didn't die in a blaze of glory. He died in silence, with his eyes wide open and the truth sitting just out of reach. No one mourned him publicly. No statues, no ceremonies, no legacy carved in stone. Just a ghost in the records. A case left unfinished. A genius no one ever really knew. He wasn't the hero. He wasn't the villain. He was the one who asked the right questions and paid for it with his life. Because justice doesn't always come with closure. Sometimes it comes with a smirk and a name written in a notebook. If you've ever felt like knowing the truth only made things worse, if you've ever carried the weight of being right while the world cheered for the wrong side, then you already understand what it meant to be L. He was the boy who turned his name into a letter, his face into a mask, and his life into a case file, and all he ever wanted was to solve the puzzle before the clock ran out.